This lecture is focusing on revision strategies, specifically how to make your argument more concrete and clear, especially in clarifying a personal statement when the overall organization is really important for persuading your audience and making all of your points as explicit as possible. So the first strategy you can use, especially if you're short on time and you really want to make sure your argument is as clear as possible, is to check to make sure that your thesis and your topic sentences are connected, because this will go a long way in clarifying your argument and then making it very clear how you want your audience to view the different examples and evidence that you're going to present to illustrate those individual points. So in checking this for a revision strategy, the easiest thing we can do is to take those sentences out of that essay and look at them as they work outside of the rest of your writing, how they work together, especially without the examples, without the transitions. We really want to see that they can be connected by themselves. So that first step is on a separate sheet of paper, list your thesis first, and then list your specific topic sentences in the order they are presented in your paper. Listing them in the order is really important, especially because we want to make sure the order of our body paragraphs are logical, especially in terms of how they progress to illustrate your strengths and, of course, why you are the best candidate. That second step for this is to start assessing them. So looking at them by themselves, thinking about only those sentences, you really want to ask, are they clearly connected without those examples or explanations? One thing that you can do is have somebody else read them, and if they're confused, if they don't understand the argument that you're making or what you're focusing on, then that is a good indicator that you really need to refine the thesis, refine those topic sentences to make sure that your points are a lot more cohesive and a lot more clear for readers. So if it's not, we can edit it. Another thing in terms of looking at this is also can really help us to avoid making our thesis and topic sentences appear too much like a narrative instead of an argument. So in these, we're looking for statements. So with your topic sentences, with your thesis, if you begin with an introductory phrase that sets a time period or is focused on a specific moment in time and it's not geared towards you and what you're illustrating about yourself, then that also is an indicator that you need to make corrections and reword those statements in order to make it more of an argument. So taking a look at some examples that we've read this semester, we can see how clear this is if we compare the thesis statements and the topic sentences from the original version of the personal statement, which is on the left, and then the revised version, which is on the right. So what you can notice from these specific statements, if we look specifically at the original versions first, most of those sentences start with an introductory phrase. So for the thesis, we have at that point. So at that point is indicating narration because it's focusing on a specific moment of time instead of focusing on reflecting and who this person is now and what they add to this program. Looking at that first topic sentence, we have after this discovery. Again, that as an introductory phrase is leaning to narration. During my senior year at SDSU, also focus on a specific time. So that is getting into more narration. And then similar to many other physical therapy applicants, that one is much more in line with what we would be looking for an argumentative topic sentence. However, if we look at the actual main part of that topic sentence, when it's emphasizing other career options, that's not leading to this argument. And then, of course, similar to how we've talked about this in class, we can also note that nowhere in the first three sentences, so nowhere in the thesis, nowhere in the first two topic sentences, does it connect to what this person wants now or physical therapy. It's mentioned for the first time in the very last topic sentence. So that is a really big indicator that this argument is more of a narration and it's not geared towards the purpose of this essay, which is why they should admit this person into that physical therapy program. So when we look at the second example, right, the language changed. The very first wording in that thesis is, I want to be a physical therapist. So now we can see how it's presenting that desire in the beginning. It's establishing the purpose for this argument. And by starting with I, it's really establishing that she is the subject. And we know that as it's going to be moving forward, it's going to be telling us different things about her. Right? Then we have that because, and we have reasons. So I want to help others, participate in the continuum of care, and to have a career that I am passionate about. So it's already giving us an idea of how this argument is going to progress and what specific examples we should be looking for and what we should be prioritizing in terms of what we should be thinking about as this essay progresses. So that's guiding into an argument, because now she has to prove that she wants to help others. She has to prove that she understands the continuum of care and that this is the specific field she wants to be a part of, that continuum of care, and of course, prove that she's passionate about physical therapy. Looking at our topic sentences, those changes stay pretty consistent. So again, if we look, we only have one sentence that begins with an introductory phrase, and that's not until the third topic sentence. And that topic sentence is focusing on the different experiences that this person has had in physical therapy, in terms of internships and in terms of work that she's done outside of class. So if we think of the language there, so that first topic sentence is I have, so it's making a very active statement about her instead of being passive. Then we have one of the main reasons, so it's implying there that there are multiple reasons. This is just one of the reasons that she is sharing with us in this essay. And then our last topic sentence is all of these experiences have taught me. So unlike the original version topic sentences that are beginning specifically as a narrative, this fourth topic sentence in the revised version is indicating reflection. So have taught me, so she is going to be talking about all of those experiences and why they've led her to physical therapy among all of the healthcare professions. And when we look at those different things, if we look at all of the topic sentences, all of them connect back to that thesis, right? Even if we were to see this as a small paragraph, right, we would have a very clear understanding of what this person wants and why they want it. However, the first one, we wouldn't have any understanding of who she is or why she wants to be a physical therapist. Our next strategy that's really important when you're writing a personal statement is making sure that you're centering your argument on yourself, especially if we think about the experiences you're focusing on. Even if you're talking about other people and how they support you and motivate you, the whole goal of this essay is to illustrate who you are and your motivations, your passions, so that this group of people who are deciding who gets admitted or who gets a scholarship, they would see you and see that drive. So in terms of a strategy, the easiest way that we can make sure you're centering an argument on yourself is to really check and see how often you use the first pronoun, I. So in terms of that as a pronoun, that is our first person subject pronoun. So if you're using that, it's going to be make you the subject of the sentences, and that's really how it's going to center on you. So you're reiterating essentially that you are the subject of this essay and other people are just a part of your story or part of your experience, but it's all about you. So if we think about pronouns within your essay, of all of the first person pronouns, you should be using I the most. You should be using it throughout your essay. You don't necessarily need to repeat it in every sentence because you don't, of course, want to overdo it. But you should have I being the subject of at least a few sentences within each paragraph, especially in terms of your thesis statement and your topic sentences, which is where we're going to have the claims for your argument. So in terms of this is also a way of making your essay less passive and more passionate, so you are not just affected by these examples, but you are the one who's going out and doing things, or you are the one whose drive is pushing you to pursue college specifically. And lastly, in terms of looking specifically to make sure that you're centering the argument on yourself, if you notice that you're using me or my too much, then this is an indicator that your argument may be more passive, because me is that first person object pronoun. So that means when you're referring to yourself at the end of the sentence, therefore you are not completing any actions within that sentence itself. So that can really take away from you as an active participant, you as somebody with agency and control over the choices you make and your life, essentially. It's similar to my, which is the first person singular possessive pronoun. So if you're using my, then typically you're emphasizing what you're being possessive of. So that is another way that can become really passive. So you can, of course, of these two pronouns, use my, but you still want to use it sparingly so that you are the subject of most of those sentences. And lastly, as you are refining your personal statement, you want to make sure to proofread your paper thoroughly, especially because grammatical errors can leave a bad impression or confuse readers. So really having very few up to none in terms of those grammatical errors is really important, because it really shows a attention to detail. It really makes you stand out in a good light and show that you cared and that you are prepared for college writing, especially.